Welcome to the Awakened Pilgrim. My name's Mark. Hope to find you in good health. Hope you've had a good day and you can get a moment of peace while you catch up with my project here, which is, if you haven't been here before, this is not a daily, but it is somewhat of a update of the project that I'm working on. In 2021, I left Canada, Vancouver, to come down to Mexico because I was inspired to create a community, because I believe the future security for a better life in this world has got to do with surrounding yourself and creating your own community, not being reliant on third-party services from the government. So there's a group of us, and we are currently in Mexico in the Caribbean Mayan area, and we're currently in the process of moving from one base camp to another. And the purpose of these base camps is to establish harmony between us as a team, find people. We need 8 people before we can do this, and basically get practiced so that when we go out, that we don't make more mistakes, that we've been able to actually test things out and see what works best before we go out. So it's a bit of an adventure, and this is for pioneers, for people that want to get out, already out of the 9 to 5, already away from money. And I equate it to individuals that wanted to leave England, Scotland, Ireland, Europe in general, to go to the States, right, and set up Jamestown, a place where there was nothing there, and individuals had to get on that boat with what they had and see what happens when they get to the other side. But of course, it wasn't for everybody, right? Like, it was for those who had the equipment and the skills to get on that boat, and the individuals that didn't, they had to struggle, if not perish. So this is where we are at this stage. It's more for the pioneers. It's not for volunteers. It's not for individuals that are in a low situation where they need a lot of help, right? So we first need to establish ourselves. So it's harder to find 8 people like that. Okay, I wanted to touch on a little bit today, and I will be touching on a little bit more with the app that I've designed and I'm designing. So I will do the reading, but generally today does feel more like get focused, stop being distracted from things. So that's the key thing, is taking action today, and perhaps being a little bit more confident in your thoughts and your ideas, right, to establish that. So I'm going to jump into that, but I wanted to also go into a little bit of how does this app work. So I will be showing that in a minute. The other things I want to talk about is a little bit on the project side. So we have one of our team members, Mara. She's going to be going back to town, and I'll be alone here for the week. And so that's kind of something we're preparing for right now this morning. So I'm busy with that. And then the project for inviting our founders. So I showed a little bit on the presentation, and so now the next step for that was to create a website. I'll show you the website, and basically from here it's creating a brochure. So we've done our website, we've done the presentation, done the website, and now we're going to do the brochure. And then along with that, I've been busy with building a website for the second base camp, which is focused mostly on the offerings, the services available, where if people want to come for the day, or if they want to sleep over at night, or they come, want to kayak or something like that. So that website's all about that. But it does introduce a little bit on the bigger vision of the property, and I'll be making a sister website for that, specifically for projects, for instance, like growing food and growing quails and ducks and eggs and chickens, and how to grow basically a permaculture garden and that kind of thing. So we're working on that project now, but that follows into the next thing that has popped up. And these things tend to pop up. So over Friday, we found a promotion for basically if you're involved in promoting the Indigenous communities. So for instance, with our project, we're focusing on helping create a little school so that we can help the individuals, the Mayan kids, be able to kind of hold their tradition and learn about that, as well as still be able to participate in the federal school system. So that is our goal, is to create a little school that allows, if they want to be taught in Mayan. So it's a bit of an ambitious project from where I stand, because obviously I don't speak Spanish fluently, and I'm in a different country, and so I go off a lot of what, the only reason why I can do what I do is because of the grace of God. That's the only reason. And there's a lot of times where people are saying things where obviously I'm not 100% sure what they're saying, but I found out that a lot of times it's not because it's more just metadata, it's more information to deal with the context, but the core conversations have been about, what is the key things that we need to help support the culture, the Mayan culture. Yeah. So that's going to be a task for us, and it's controversial because, you're not going to get individuals that are wealthy that are going to give you money to go and build a little Mayan school. That's just not going to happen. They don't have any money, they don't have any benefit in that as far as funds go, right? So it's just something that they feel, I can, if they do get involved, it's just because they kind of understand that process, but many of them won't. Most 99.9% of those kind of individuals will not understand the value of investing into Indigenous and learning those skills, so they just won't do it. And as well as the return's very slow, so because you have to cultivate an economy first, so it's not something that just starts to happen. And so who do you think is going to be able to give us that kind of funding? And most of the time it's going to come from large organizations like the United Nations, and this specific application is for the United Nations, which it's not a thing that I would like to do working with them, but the way we've organized our structures, we're working through the ejido, so we're working through the cooperative, which allows us to basically not be involved. We're just custodians, we're just helping the cooperative, and hopefully they give us something in return. It's out of reciprocity, so we don't ask for any funding, we don't do anything to collect those funds that we help them with, but ultimately we hope that they will see the value in us helping them do that, and they will support us, and that's just a symbiotic relationship. So that's how it works. So we will be putting it in their name, we will be applying to the grant through their name, and we'll be working from that level. What else is there? I'm going to finish up with that. I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that's distracting at the moment, and all I can say is that there are options. In fact, I was coming up with a thought. I had a thought the other day about, there are a lot of people in the States that they don't have food, they don't grow food, right? Like, you don't grow food in the back of your yard, but they've got big enough yards to do something with. You can actually grow a lot of food in the back of the yards if you know how to do it. And I was coming up with this idea of a micro biodiversity credit, meaning that if you're an individual that has a yard and you want to turn it into a biospheric environment for species, then there might be a chance you could get a grant for that. So I'm looking into that, because I think there are a lot of people that would be interested in that, applying for that kind of grant. So with that, good news. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will be jumping in now on the computer to show you a little bit more about the app and so on. Take care. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of explain a little bit on how this app works, and the benefit of this is to tap into a process that gives us focus on creativity and manifestation ultimately. The way the Tzolk'in works in terms of the Mayan cosmology is that they basically recognize the highest form of creation being that of the birth of a child. And so they broke it down into 260 days, 9 months, to represent life's process of creative cycles. Then they took that and they broke it down into smaller cycles related to the moon. Okay, so there's a pattern, the patterns that kind of coincide with one another. And that's where we got the 13 days from. The 13 days is kind of the smallest element of expression for a certain type of process, certain stage in the process of development. So when we look at, what I'm showing right now is that 13-day process. So, and in this case, it started off with a magnetic men, right? So the first tone gives the entire 13-day process an influence. So the first one is always there right through the process. So that's something that's got to be considered. And really what that means, magnetic men. So if we read that, it means to attract, unify, set intention, the beginning of energy that calls things into being, right? So it is a very, it's very in sync with basically the process of creativity. But we're on tone 10, planetary Kan. And what that basically means is that over the last couple of days, over the last 9, 10 days, we've been in the process of gaining intelligence, suffering through things that are pulling us away, or this kind of thing that's distracting us. But in a messy kind of creative process, it's where ideation, right? Now today is about, let's see, to perfect, produce, birth forth the energy of refinement and perfection. So now today is about taking action based on the last couple of days' work that you've been busy with. So that's to give you an idea, and that's a general kind of energy for everybody on Earth, right? So I'm going to go to the universal reading, and this is kind of an interpretation of today's energy then. You're being called to perfect your actions and produce results that reflect your values of sovereignty and devotion, particularly in how you prioritize your tasks and commitments. As you focus on targeting your efforts, you may face tensions between taking bold action and being patient, allowing your awareness to flower. Today, choose one key project to prioritize before responding to other requests, and take a moment to reflect on how this aligns with your life purpose. What small, deliberate step can you take right now to cultivate greater awareness and intention in your actions? So that is the reading for everybody on Earth today. I'm still kind of feeling, but that is kind of there's a lot more aspects to it, but that is kind of the general case for the energy for today, apparently. So if we put it on a more personal level, so this now is a combination between my own stage of development and the stage of nature's development, let's put it that way. And so combining them gives me a certain relationship. So today, just to read mine, for instance, is you're inclined to dedicate yourself to well-being of all, and this tendency meets a current pressure to refine your skills and perfect your actions. As someone who values sovereignty and truth, you may feel a tension between staying true to your own path and the desire to produce something of value. Today, you have a chance to focus on specific projects that align with your life purpose, and take a moment to assess this progress. Could be a concrete action that helps you move forward. Consider how your commitment to the Creator's will guides your decisions, and ask yourself, what small step can I take today and take now to beautify and realize your purpose? So it's a little bit of a different angle, saying that, yeah, I can. It's almost like on top. It's like the icing on the cake. So today the energy is to kind of like make sure that you're in a line and take action on something. And yeah, in my personal reading, it's more about, get ready for some tension, because you're going to probably have to deal with grappling these two ideas. Do you want to help people, or do you want to stay true to yourself, right? So that's a constant struggle, I think, in a lot of what I do anyway. So that kind of gives an overall idea about how the app works. And then I wanted but in order to use this app, it needs to create a reading, a personal reading. And for instance, on mine, so you see there's 500 questions that are completed. That was in February. And so basically it came up with this archetype. This is Richard Tarnas's work, Sacred Naturalist. That's what it's, and it's my belief, or my, if you want to talk about my story in the back of my head that I have as a grand story, is I fell out of the Garden of Eden like so many others. I am on a quest to return to the Garden of Eden and open the gates for others to follow, which is very true to the way I feel with this process of this project. So it goes through, and it will evaluate what are my most important values, the top 10 values, and my belief systems. Like I'm a radical individual that believes in sovereignty, nature, sacred templates, anti-institutionalism, and redemptive return. So these are the core kind of DNA, as I say. So it's really like a eye opener. It's not astrology, it's not cosmology. It's a combination of categorizing it in those terms, but it's getting the data from the questions. Now the questions, here is the actual form that you start off with, and there's an example. For example, is I have to actually reset this one quickly. This should be an example of the. So this is the actual report, right? And that was put into the actual. And if you don't complete, I mean, if you don't need the app per se, because the app is designed actually for connecting teams, but you just wanted a personal reading, then this is what it kind of looked like, right? So, um, yeah, so that's a questionnaire. In this case, there were 40 pages, right, of information, yeah, so that I can go through and I can read through. Now, the questions, if you're interested in the questions itself, it's over there. Let me just open it up quickly. And so these are some of the questions, and I'm going to be starting to do these questions now. So I'm going to start with these, but yeah, you can see the questions, and they basically divided into different categories and then broken down, right? So quite a few questions. There's how many pages? Yeah, 22 pages, right, of questions here. So if I start today, which I'm going to do with you guys today, I'm going to go next. And then it's basically saying stay on the same machine that you're using to maintain your place in the questionnaire, because you're probably not going to finish 500 questions in one sitting. So, so if you don't use the same device, the same browser, and in the same browsing mode, then you're probably going to lose access to where you are in the questionnaire. Also for language, it hasn't been translated, but for those who do want to use different languages, you can just use your translator to do that. But I'm working on more languages. So in this case, I'm just going to say my name is Mark, and then we begin, and then it's going to ask. Now I'm going to do one question a day, all right? So let's see, question 101. When you see a pattern or symmetry, does it reveal A, human pattern seeking? We impose patterns where not inherent. Underlie order or design. Universe is observed patterns are real. Both real patterns and human interpretation, and it depends. I personally believe it's both, because I think that we as humans have this ability for pattern recognition that makes us a little bit different from other animals, let's put it that way. So I would say both. And I mean, if I look at synchronicities, there are things that happen that I can't explain, but I know there's a pattern. It occurs at a certain time, most likely when I'm not expecting, but it does, these patterns kind of reoccur. So, and it's a warning. Like I've seen myself have pain in certain parts of my body, and then later on, like it's a warning, like I get sick, or like something happens in a relationship, right? Like I had an example of hurting my big toe before I got married, and then I hurt my big toe again just before I got divorced, and that was kind of very, couldn't plan that, but that's a pattern. So yeah, we go. So I guess I'm gonna take 2 years to finish this, but this is the idea, is that I will be doing one question a day. So moving on. All right. So on the other project, on the other task that we have is to reach out to our founders, and so I created the founders landing page, and basically the same information is on the presentation. So key thing here in this property really is that it's very close to the indigenous land, and in Mexico over 60% of land is indigenous, so that's a lot of land. And now they have basically the ability to, as indigenous individuals, to at least have some kind of say in who gets access to that land, because it used to be the government could come in for no reason, but now that's changing. So that makes it very different because our project is surrounded by indigenous land. So it gives us that ability, if we work with them, for them to actually give us a little bit of that security, if you will. So yeah, so that's working, and I did a Spanish version as well. So there's that. So I just wanted to share that. Then I also did, this is now the website for the new base camp, or base camp 2. And so I worked on that yesterday, and I'm quite happy with it. It's looking a lot nicer than the previous one I made. And yeah, it's got a couple things. People can go to the lagoon. So this picture actually seeing here is the lagoons. They're not in this picture. They're not all filled up, but basically it's like a chain of lagoons that are coming together. And in some cases we believe that there's a chance you can actually dive under from one lagoon to the next. We're not sure yet. So very nice environment to be in. Got a lot of lagoons, a lot of water, can do fishing, kayaking, swimming, whatever. And yeah, so this area is and they have a pool, and they do swimming there, and then they have a couple cabins. They've got also a dome, and they've got places for tenting. So that's also we will be. This is where the pioneers will be kind of staying, is with the tenting stuff, right? So, and yeah, we just talk a little bit about the property and the bigger picture. Established in 1936, and it's over 1,000 hectares large, right, in this area for this specific. The co-op that it's part of is over 1,000 hectares, so it's massive, and we're working with them on that. So, and yeah, we're just talking about the volunteering that goes on in that community. And so what is the key thing after this now is to basically set up another website, but that's going to be driven specifically for the projects, the indigenous projects, or regenerative projects, for the land. So working on that. And then finally, this is now I have to focus on getting this done today, which is New Commons Incubator for Indigenous Languages and Cultures application form. And so they're asking us to give them a business plan and so on. So I have to work on this. So that's the next thing on my plate. So all right. Well, I just wanted to share what's going on, and I wish you the best of a day. If you want to connect, please find the details at the bottom in the description box. And if you want to support, please go take a look at Richard's course here. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Autonomy is unlike any other educational offering on the planet. It's an incubator for growth, an accelerator for creating relationships, creating and establishing long-term relationships. It's an elevator of understanding and a generator for creating plans, expediting and solving life's problems and challenges, and overcoming the obstacles blocking your path. And doing so on a consistent basis with a calm, cool, collected atmosphere. It all happens here. And with nearly 1,000 graduates, I know what I teach works. I know you have the ability to learn it. I know it can work for you as well or better than it has for me. When I acquired these skills for myself, it was a struggle because I had never invested that much in my own self-education. However, I would never have earned a 200-fold return on my investment in the first 5 years of applying these skills in the marketplace. That was a game changer for me. This is truly $1 million education, and everything I teach is what I've used for my own growth and success over the past 3 decades. Sharing the opportunity to do so is likewise a game changer for those who are willing to know and willing to learn and show up for themselves in the game of life. And with all that being said, I invite you to engage in finding out for yourself in the Autonomy Primer course. I'll see you on the other side.